I mean, so I want to look at my booth real quick. Do we have Stephanie Rose on the line? Okay, all right. So I want to talk to Stephanie when she calls in, and I want you guys to hear about her story and the issue around male engagement that she's working on and the powerful movement that she's doing in the Atlanta, Georgia area. But I'm going to go to this EKG, and I'm going to touch it for a couple of different reasons. We all know that Colin Kaepernick started with the taking of a knee as it relates to an effort to address police brutality, and an effort to showcase and honor those lives who were affected and even ended by rogue officers in various cities across the United States. Now, we all know that this whole movement of taking a knee has become almost commercialized at this point. We've had Jerry Jones taking a knee. We've had, Ray Lewis taking a knee of those. And we can have that conversation in the barbershop and probably a couple of salons, because Brother Ray has been catching heat for his approach to this. We've seen Bill Russell take a knee. Countless artists, music artists, elected officials have all addressed this issue, including President Trump. And so I want to play a clip for you with regards to the president's latest comments around taking a knee.
Well, I wasn't preoccupied with the NFL. I was ashamed of what was taking place, because to me that was a very important moment. I don't think you can disrespect our country, our flag, our national anthem. To me, the NFL situation is a very important situation. I've heard that before about was I preoccupied. Not at all. Not at all. I have plenty of time on my hands. All I do is work. And to be honest with you, that's an important function of working. It's called respect for our country. Many people have died. Many people. Many people are so horribly injured. I was at Walter Reed Hospital recently, and I saw so many great young people, and they're missing legs and they're missing arms, and they've been so badly injured. And they were fighting for our country. They were fighting for our flag. They were fighting for our national anthem. And for people to disrespect that by kneeling during the playing of our national anthem, I think is disgraceful.
So, he believes that those who have lost limb and life for country are being disrespected by the taking of a knee. He has even gone far enough to say that he would prefer that NFL owners would eject these, and you can kind of guess the rest. If you have not been on social media, there are more than enough memes to address that issue. And when he used that particular phrase, sons of A, we had an uproar. And all of a sudden, we saw actually Steph Curry's mother come out first to say, well, I will be proud to be that if that's what you deem me to be. But then you also saw some NFL players say, listen, all right, now we have reached the final straw, and if that's the case, say it to my face. We saw NFL players break down emotionally, recognizing that while they had not taken a knee prior, they understood that this was no longer negotiable. The issues of the day were right at their face, right at their doorstep, and they had been called out of their name by the 45th president of the United States. And so I want to address some issues here, though. Here's the first point. Okay, so when someone enlists into the Army, they take an oath. And I'm going to give you that oath. That oath says, I, and you place your name there, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Wait a minute, let's run that back. I, place your name, do solemnly swear and affirm that I will support and defend. That didn't say Betsy Ross's creation. That didn't say the flag that flies before the game. It said the Constitution of the United States. Therein lies the first issue. And so they will defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear the true faith and allegiance to the same. So now let's address the second part of this. We're going to defend the Constitution against all enemies, which means those who aren't feeling it in whatever way, shape, or form, against enemies both foreign and domestic. That's the ones overseas who want to end our way of life, and then also those who aren't necessarily dropping bombs on our cities, but dropping philosophical bombs that suggest that the freedom of speech provided in the Constitution is no longer allowed. I think that contradicts everything that President Trump has said on this issue. But it's not just about President Trump. We've seen all across, not just social media, but throughout the communities, there have been tremendous arguments around these issues of the day. But I want to break down the arguments, how we're arguing the arguments, and what occurs in a false perspective as we present our arguments. Now, there are many fallacies out there. What are fallacies? So a fallacy is an erroneous argument that's dependent upon an unsound or illogical contention. If you pay attention, take the emotion out, and let's begin to look at each one of these arguments, we can see the fallacy that lies inside. And so let's address the first fallacy. Okay, so when President Trump or anyone else in authority says, well, this is what should be because I'm the president, or I'm the general, or I'm the Secretary of State, or I'm whatever your title is, and I'm in a position of authority. I know I'm in the position. I'm the leader. I'm in charge. Well, that kind of argument is actually a fallacy. It's called an appeal to authority, and that sort of error is known as argumentum verecundia. That's, instead of concentrating on the benefits of the argument, the arguer will attempt to append the argument to an individual or a power of authority to try to give it some level of trustworthiness. That is not a fact. That is a fallacy. Here's the second fallacy. When the argument is made that the disrespect from others towards our country is because those like Kaepernick showed disrespect first by taking a flag, that is a fallacy. That fallacy is known as the relationship implies causation fallacy. That's also considered in Latin cum hoc ergo propter hoc. And that fallacy is a deception in which the individual makes the contention and joins two occasions that happen consecutively and believes that the other one is the cause of it. Here's another fallacy. It's been said on social media and other mediums of exchange, you can't show me everyday examples of police brutality. I mean, every officer that I've experienced has been wonderful. I mean, police brutality doesn't exist. I don't see it. And so, because I don't see it, it doesn't exist. Our community is safe. Well, that's a fallacy called appeal to ignorance. Now, the appeal to ignorance happens when one individual utilizes another individual's lack of information on a specific subject as proof that his or her argument is right. Here's one that I really love. Well, a few people were arrested during the Black Lives Matters rally. Therefore, these Black Lives Matters people are violent, rowdy, and criminals. Well, that's an association fallacy, and sometimes we call that guilt by affiliation. That happens when someone connects a particular thought to something or someone negative as to infer blame on another individual. That's been happening to Colin Kaepernick throughout this whole process. Here's one that I truly love that I dealt with even this week on social media. Well, if we allow people to kneel during the anthem, what's next? Spitting on the flag? I mean, creating safe havens for domestic terrorists? Well, wait a minute. That one is a fallacy called the slippery slope. And that error happens when one contends that something that's exceptionally minor in movement will unavoidably create or prompt some kind of great and ludicrous conclusion. Those are all fallacies, erroneous facts. And so I encourage on both sides of the debate, okay, both sides, that we all kick the fallacies out and address the real issues of the day. All of this started not for a peace movement for the NFL, not for them to take it, rebrand it, own it in their own way, and owners come out the owner's box and drop with their players, not during the anthem, but in some kind of other symbolic moment because they're too scared of doing the knee on the anthem. Or even Mike Tomlinson. Yeah, I brought the name up. Yeah, I'm going to hide everybody in the locker room, and I won't really even address it, even though one of my guys went out there anyway. Let's take the fallacies out and deal with the real issue of why we're even dealing with all of this in the first place. For the lives that were affected by, keyword, rogue police officers. Officers who have chosen to act outside of the badge and what should occur while under the badge. And so I'm going to end this EKG going right back to our president, 45. You made a comment that and suggested that it is absolutely disrespect for anyone to do anything else other than pledge allegiance to the flag, to acknowledge the flag during the anthem. Well, Supreme Court saw it different. In case 319 U.S. 624. Now that's West Virginia's State Board of Education versus Barnett. Now that was argued March 11th, 1943. It was decided on June 14th of that same year. Now the issue at hand was the fact that the state, West Virginia, was making it compulsory for children in the public schools to salute the flag and pledge allegiance. Now, you all know the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm still trying to figure out that justice for all component. However, these children who decided not to stand up for the national anthem were expelled because they did not comply. Their absence of the allegiance became unlawful, subjecting not only them but their parents or guardians to punishment. And those who refused compliance, and they did so on religious grounds. However, thankful for these Supreme Court justices in 1943 because they believed that the religious grounds didn't even control this decision of this question, and it was unnecessary for them to inquire, listen to this, into the sincerity of their views. So it didn't matter whether or not they felt like someone was being sincere in their choice to deviate from what one believes should be done during the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, under the federal Constitution, compulsion as here employed is not a permissible means for achieving national unity. These are my words. This is the Supreme Court. Now, here's a little bit about that case and what was read in the final response by the justices. The case is made difficult not because of the principles of its decision and the fact that they are obscure, but because the flag involved is our own. Nevertheless, we apply the limitations of the Constitution with no fear that freedom to be intellectually and spiritually diverse or even contrary will disintegrate the social organization. Basically, what they're saying is it's okay to be you. Nike said just do it. The Supreme Court said just do it first. Now, to believe that patriotism will not flourish if patriotic ceremonies are voluntary and spontaneous, instead of a compulsory routine, is to make an unflattering estimate of the appeal of our institutions to free minds. I love that last sentence. And here's where they wax, not only philosophical, but the prose gets even more impactful. If there is any fixed star in our constitutional constellation, it is that no official, president included, high or petty, or those that are petty in high places, they didn't do that, I put that in there, can describe or prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, nationalism, religion, or other matters of opinion, or force citizens to confess by word or act of their faith therein. If there are any circumstances which permit an exception, they do not now occur to us. Now, in 1943, they were dealing with racism, all kinds of issues that are even far more impactful than the moments that we're dealing with now. And even then, they still understood, hey, look, this thing about the flag and pledging allegiance is optional, and through your own intellect, you can choose to do what you want to do. And it would not have a repercussion. So, that's the Supreme Court. I can't change what they said. I embrace what they said. I encourage others to look up what they said. To those who argue against it, the highest court in the land has affirmed that Colin Kaepernick and anyone else, now this includes us, my people, you can't knock Ray Lewis for getting on two knees. I know it took him a minute to kind of figure this thing out, and then recently he just said, well, I was on both knees because I was praying to God. And then he said on top of that, well, while I was praying to God, I felt the presence of Ali and whoever else that he chimed in with, Michael Jordan, whoever these other spirits are. I'm just saying, when I pray to God, Ali doesn't join me. Nor does Mike Jordan or anybody else. However, Ray Lewis, under this ruling by the Supreme Court, can stand on both knees and kneel on both knees and actually pray along with Ali, George Frazier, whoever, George Foreman, Mike Jordan, whoever else he wants to bring to the mix. It's his right to do so. Above all, we must remove the fallacies out of these conversations and start dealing with the facts of the issue. That is the only way that we move forward. To those who are arguing the kneel, stop it. Don't even argue the kneel anymore. Argue the real issue, the true issue. Police brutality by rogue officers. How do we fix that? How do we solve that issue? That is our challenge of this season of life. That is the EKG for this week. I encourage you to respond back. We've got tons of inboxes and comments around it. I encourage you to keep the dialogue up. I love interacting with you guys and getting your point of view, because it is the various points of view that provide the total solution for our collective society. Now, if you were anywhere in Philadelphia over the last 2-3 days, you were celebrating because the Octavius Cato statue has now been erected. This was a free black man who was born February, I believe, 22nd, 1839. He was instrumental in Philadelphia. He taught at the Institute of the Colored Youth, which was a precursor for what I believe was Cheney University. He became the principal to this particular school. Now, he also founded a professional baseball team, of which he actually played shortstop and second base. Now, he joined Frederick Douglass, recruiting black men to fight in the Civil War, and then later served in the Union Army, which he earned the rank of major. Now, here's the part that Philadelphia comes in on. He organized countless sit-ins and protests and successfully desegregated Philadelphia's streetcars. And he got a kick out of this thing. I mean, there are reports that, Cato would literally get on a streetcar and force the driver almost to stop the car because he refused to let everyone off until they got the message that blacks should be allowed to travel on the streetcar system. Now, he wrote, spoke, led demonstrations that helped push Pennsylvania lawmakers to ratify the 15th Amendment, which bars voting discrimination on the basis of race. He organized the now enfranchised black citizens after he corralled them together, got them information, did the town halls, knocked on doors, and then he helped to bring them to the polls. And it was on October 10th, 1871 in Philadelphia, right around 9th and South, it is reported that he was gunned down by rioters as he was standing as a poll watcher, as we now modernly know it, encouraging blacks to vote on election day. He was 32 years old. That is our Black History fact for the month. We celebrate the fact that the statue now exists right outside of City Hall, but here's a little known fact for you. His body lays in state just outside of Philadelphia in Eden Cemetery. This is the same place where some other notable African Americans are all laid to rest as well. It is absolutely important that we support that cemetery, ensure that that cemetery has what it needs to ensure that these historical markers are well presented, maintained, the headstones and tombstones are taken care of, because that's our history. And it's not just celebrating the statue in front of City Hall, but also making sure that the bodies that lay in state can do so with respect. That's our Black History fact for the month. Octavius Cato, a proud member of Philadelphia's history. A special thanks to Mayor Jim Kenney and the countless organizations and activists who have pushed to see this come to fruition. Our song for the week is going to be Kindred Soul. You guys know them well. We call them Kindred the Family Soul. Some of us just say Asian Fatine. This is the 5-spot music. This is Bank Street music. The song is called Stars. Check it out. So on the line, I want to get directly to Stephanie because she has a conference called the AlphaCON 2017. It's a men's empowerment series similar to what you guys have seen in the Philadelphia area and the 11 cities of the Made Men Tour. But this thing is drilled down to fatherhood, finance, family, fitness. And I mean, they're going to break down these things in breakout sessions and workshops. And Atlanta is going to turn up in its empowerment, not just in its entertainment. And so it is an absolute pleasure to have with me Stephanie Rose. Welcome to the heart of the city.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here today.
So Stephanie, let's talk about this. What made you, I mean, you run a successful brand marketing company. You could engage in anything, but yet you chose to place your efforts in male empowerment and engagement. What was the nucleus behind that?
Well, the nucleus, the whole purpose of the concept and spearheading a leadership development conference was all behind my son. I am a mother of a black son, 16 years old. And one interesting fact about me and my son, we're both millennials.
Wow.
And that's one that he's growing up in a millennial brand household, so everything is digital, and we actually transcend digital and real world interest. But I really wanted to take my son to an event that he could be inspired to lead. There's so many different things that he can do to follow the crowd and to pick up certain trends, but I wanted him to look to other men of leadership, black men in leadership, and the most focused aspects of a man's personal life. And I researched, and there's all kinds of different conferences similar to the concept of AlphaCON, but I really wanted to hone in on those personal things, fatherhood, developing, a great relationship. My son has a great relationship with his dad, but I want to have a better relationship with my father. So we want men to bring their dads, to bring their sons, to bring their brothers, to talk about the improvements and how they can be leadership in their family, how they can be leaders in their family, in their community, and in business. And so that's why I really am passionate about AlphaCon. I actually was on the phone with a media company from Ghana. They reached out to us wanting to be a part of the AlphaCon Men's Empowerment Series. So now we are considering an intercontinental, international tour.
So tell me, Stephanie, tell me, so what can they expect? I mean, this is 2 days of workshops. What makes AlphaCon so unique and different?
Well, what attendees and guests can expect are speakers that have well-rounded viewpoints, experiences in fatherhood, or life coaches. Our morning on Saturday starts with breakfast with businessmen for black men that are interested in entrepreneurship, starting a business. They'll be able to partake in that. And throughout the day, there'll be different workshops and classes and different things on, and discussions as well on what the problems are, and as well as the solutions and what men can do to improve in those areas in their lives.
Wow. So and you're touching, fatherhood, which is personal for you, but finance and family and fitness, which are areas that often go untouched when we talk about, what is needed for the African American male and the black man in America. And so you're bringing partners from all across the country to discuss these things.
Yes, one of our speakers, he actually focuses on the prison industrial complex transition into entrepreneurship. There is a young man who learned how to weld in prison, but he was unfortunately unable to obtain employment as a welder, even though he had that certification. He went above and beyond to start a business in welding and has several contracts all over the country. And so there is hope after prison, and we want to introduce that opportunity to men who may have not even thought about entrepreneurship or starting a business. Maybe you did learn a trade in prison. You did learn a trade, and because you have been labeled in society as a felon, that they prevent you from being able to obtain employment. Now you can take control. Now you can empower men to let them know, hey, you can start a business with a trade that you've obtained through that prison industrial complex, through that. So that's just from the financial aspect, understanding budgeting and investment management. I've worked 3 years with Bank of America in consumer small business financing, starting it all the way up from the bottom, from repairing and restoring your credit, all the way to wealth investment and management.
Wow. We
want to have those type of discussions as well. Even with fitness, a lot of black men are suffering from a lot of different things because of health and wellness. It's very imperative that to lead your home, to lead your family, that you have the most upstanding level of fitness, where do you start? You know, you may want to start your new year off on a healthy note. Come to AlphaCON to get, you know, expert advice about health and wellness from a Black man's perspective.
So let's take the next 60 seconds to tell them when AlphaCON is occurring, and then also how to get in touch with you, how to register, or even how to partner if they have, you know, information or skill sets of value.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Right now we are in the planning stage. If you can go to AlphaCON2017.com, we are also still registering speakers. We're also looking for vendors within those core four focus of fatherhood, finance, fitness, and family. And also different speakers or entertainers that are interested in those PR opportunities to come out. Pre-register right now. Go to AlphaCON2017.com. And that weekend is actually the December 29th through the 31st. Our finale is our all-Black affair, red carpet, New Year's Eve bash. So we definitely want to bring in the new year with empowerment and leadership, and we're putting on for the men now.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to celebrate right with you and continue to push this great effort. So thankful for your following of the calling that is placed on your life to empower not just our community, but African-American men. That is December 29th through the 31st, the AlphaCON 2017 conference. Check them out, AlphaCON2017.com. If you know someone who has any level of expertise that is and should be shared or shareable with others, get them involved, get them to Stephanie. If you just want to learn and you just want to kick it with like-minded men and understand that the brotherhood truly is real and that the resource pool is truly real and self-sufficiency truly does exist through the sharing of knowledge back and forth, get with Stephanie and the AlphaCON 2017 conference. Thank you so much for calling in, Stephanie. May God continue to bless you and enlarge your territory.
Thank you so much for this platform. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. So, this is really exciting because I had the chance to kind of just go through the website and sit down and talk to individuals who have gone through the museum. And I'm absolutely floored. I'm going to be honest to the listening audience. I have not attended, but this is priority for me. Priority for my two beautiful little girls to go through this museum as well. It's mind-blowing that this treasure is right here in our area. And so I have the executive director in the studio with me, the founder, Vashti DuBois.
Hi, how are you doing?
Look, I'm great now that you're in the building. I mean, so let's talk about the Colored Girls Museum.
Sure.
I mean, so you literally took a house and said, I need that. And then you turned it into this authentic footprint of our history.
Sure. I mean, the Colored Girls Museum is really a thought, an idea, inspiration that I've had for many years. Probably started when I was a sophomore in college, which was actually a very long time ago.
Wow.
And, you know, there were all these reasons why I couldn't do it. I didn't have the money, I didn't have the time, I didn't have the space. And, you know, something happened in my life that, you know, made me realize you don't have an indefinite amount of time to recognize your dreams. And so if you really want to do something, you actually have to start with what you have. And what I had was a home.
Yeah.
I have a 3-story, 130-year-old Victorian home.
Right.
Raised my 3 children there. The youngest just started school.
Beautiful.
And I thought it was time to celebrate the ordinary colored girl. The ordinary, extraordinary colored girl.
There you go.
Because if we don't celebrate our ordinary gifts to this world community, nobody else will. So, hence the Colored Girls Museum.
So tell me about the journey through this museum, because you give this salon-style guided tour.
Right.
But what can individuals expect? What kind of experience do you envelop them in?
I mean, I have to say, it is, you can look at the photos on the website, you can read the articles, but I'd like to say that the Colored Girls Museum is a multidisciplinary, sort of multi-sensory experience, because it really reflects the experience of being a colored girl. And we are multidisciplinary, we're multisensory, we're complex, we're colorful, we have music to us, we have dance to us. So while one can find contemporary art in this space, and one can find artifacts that are significant to the experience of the colored girl herself, one will also find that this particular museum, she has a scent for every room because it means something. There are flowers in every room because we believe the ordinary colored girl should have her flowers while she can smell them. And there's a story for every room because our stories are as complex as our skin tones. And the exhibits do change quite often. We just finished the Philadelphia Fringe Festival, which is where we open our shows in the fall. And then the work sort of settles into the house, we like to say, and we have an opportunity to think about what's working and how it's working, and then to shift it. And in terms of our structure, I mean, we are a collective leadership structure. There are 3 of us who are doing some of the heavy lifting, but the Colored Girls Museum would not exist at all were it not for the collective of artists and ordinary colored girls who said yes to a really new idea, something that none of us could understand what it was going to be until she was born. But we like to say she was born free.
She was born free. That's tweetable, quotable. Put it on a T-shirt. I mean, so you looked at your house and said, and let me rephrase that. You looked at your home and you said, I've raised children here.
Yes.
And I've gone through that purpose. I've lived a bountiful life here, and then now I'm going to repurpose this not for rental income property, as some would do. You said, no, I'm actually going to turn this back into making it a blessing. Absolutely. As it was a blessing for me.
Absolutely.
And I'm shocked that, and I've heard about it over the last, I believe, 2.5 months, and we talked about it in the office. But I'm shocked that we have not embraced this museum as much as we should, and on the collective or more broad and mainstream scale. Is that by design? Is it a hidden treasure?
Well, first of all, there are 2 things that I have to say. The Colored Girls Museum has been much loved and much embraced, and broadly. People have, last week there were actually people at the Colored Girls Museum from the UK.
Beautiful.
Colored girls in particular have come far and wide. People come from Chicago. They come from New York. They come from Baltimore. They come from D.C. They come from Maryland. People are hajjing to the Colored Girls Museum. And that's powerful and significant. And I guess it was actually a surprise to me, because sometimes you have an idea in your head. And it seems like a good idea to you, but you have absolutely no idea how that will land in the world. Now, there is another aspect to the Colored Girls Museum. When we opened in the Fringe Festival as a show in the fall of 2015, we opened as a show to really test the idea of a Colored Girls Museum in Philadelphia, because I've been in Germantown for 15 years, but I'm a Brooklyn girl. I was born in Brownsville, and Philadelphia is my adopted home.
Absolutely.
But I really, I often still look at the world through the eyes of a Brooklyn girl. And so I said, this may not be something that Philly has any love for, has any interest in. So doing it as a show allowed us to test the idea. And it was called The Building of a Colored Girls Museum. And in our description of it, we said the Colored Girls Museum is designed as a bed and breakfast, because if people knew she was a museum, they might seek to harm her.
Wow.
And that was intentional and necessary to say, because there is an aspect of the colored girl's life that when she steps up to do, with her ordinary self, to do the things that she must do and that she has done to make this world community the place that it is, she is quite often in the line of fire. Sometimes when she doesn't step up at all.
Right.
Sometimes she's 4 little girls in a church getting ready for Sunday school and somebody plants a bomb.
Yeah.
Sometimes she's the Leesburg Stockade Girls and she's at a rally and she is 11 to 14 years of age.
Right.
And someone rounds up 30 or more of her and they disappear her from her family and community for months. So sometimes, much of the time, the colored girl need do nothing except exist and invite violence and threat. So the Colored Girls Museum is her sanctuary. It is a regional outpost. It is a safe space, and it is an announcement. It's an announcement that the colored girl herself is capable and ready to welcome herself and her gifts as part of the leadership that I think we all require right now.
Now, you said something really critical. You said that the museum should almost serve as in the focus line of a bed and breakfast, as opposed to a museum, which would in turn almost protect it.
Yes.
Now, I saw that, I heard it was powerful in itself, right? So you could just leave it there, but it's almost like you saying, and it's almost a lesson for life for all of us, that we shouldn't just rest on our laurels and align ourselves with museum-like approach or foundational approach to the world, but continue to have this intimate bed and breakfast level interaction with our community. Keep ingesting.
Yeah, well, it's that, but also, I mean, that was the first show. The second show, the Colored Girls Museum delivers a good night's sleep. And the focus of that show was really to call all of our attention to an epidemic of sleeplessness in our community. 400 years of sleeplessness in our community, because the inability to sleep has been handed down from generation to generation to generation. And there's a hashtag that says stay woke.
Stay woke, right.
And we like to say, at least we did for that show, no, actually, the colored girl needs to go to sleep, because it is in her sleep that she will heal. It's in her sleep that she will remember, and it's in her sleep that she will shapeshift, time travel, and connect with the resources that she needs to do the work that she's here to do. And if she can't do that for herself, she actually can't do that for anybody.
Right.
But this current show is Urgent Care, a Social Care Experience, and the museum is now disguised, not even disguised, the museum presents herself to the community as an urgent care facility or a hospital. So you can see that she continues, like the colored girl herself, to become what she needs to be for the community she seeks to serve. And so in this hospital, in the colored girl's version of her urgent care, every room in the house has been transformed to pay attention to some aspect of the colored girl's story. How does the colored girl deliver urgent care into the community? And how does the colored girl, what does she require in terms of her own urgent care? And we expand, of course, that definition beyond anything that would be the medical to contemplate, her needs and her urgency from an economic, spiritual, cultural, psychological standpoint. Everything that she could possibly be thinking about gets held up in some way in this urgent care facility.
So, to my brothers out there, this is not just for you if you have a daughter, but it seems like this is a place that all men should also attend as well, just to understand more our counterpart, our partners in life.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the Colored Girls Museum looks at the world through the prism of the colored girl. We like to say the colored girl is at the bottom of everything. And what happens when your perspective is drawn from the bottom is that you see everything. And if you see everything, that also means that you fashion a life for yourself that allows you to be able to address almost anything because you have a different kind of view. And that view makes you invaluable, especially at a time like this. And we like to say Colored Girl is sanctuary, but not for the colored girl only. It's for anybody who's ready for a conscious revolution. As for our colored boys, you can't have a colored girl without a colored boy.
Right.
So the curator for the Colored Girls Museum is Michael Clemens, and he's responsible for the way that art and artifact organizes itself on our walls. The performance art curator for the Colored Girls Museum is also, and they're both friends of mine, longtime friends of mine. I have two sons. Ian Friday is, he is a performance artist, a producer, a writer, an artist, and all of them. And I have 4 brothers. I grew up with 4 brothers.
Right.
So I am all about the colored girl and all about creating a space where we can really talk about her. And like I said, I say to people, Shirley Chisholm has a museum. She should. Toni Morrison will have a museum. She better.
Right.
Maya Angelou, she better.
Right.
Michelle Obama, better.
Yeah.
But it's the ordinary colored girl that makes this thing do what it does. And for far too long, we just have not heard from her. We've not celebrated her. We've not seen her. And in so doing, she hasn't been able to fully appreciate herself. So we appreciate her.
So, to all my ordinary extraordinaries, as Vashti would say, give them, and we're at the end of the show. There's so much to talk about here. All right, but give us 60 seconds and tell individuals how to get to the museum.
So,
what do they need to do?
All right, the Colored Girls Museum is in Germantown. We're at 4613 Newhall Street. Our website is www.coloredgirlsmuseum.com. We are the first public monument to the colored girl anywhere. So if you Google us, we're going to come up. We're open on Sundays for tours from 1 to 5 o'clock, and we're open during the week by appointment for groups of 10 or more. If you want to message us through our Facebook page, it comes directly to one of the 3 of us, and we respond promptly.
You just heard from the founder of the Colored Girls Museum, Vashti DuBois. I mean, she just took us on an amazing journey about the ordinary extraordinary and why it's so important to celebrate not just our present, our past, and all the elements that combine to create this beautiful future that we have existing together. Make sure you check out the Colored Girls Museum. Do not make it an option. Make it a priority for you to visit something that is created for us by us. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on Heart of the City.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about the Colored Girls Museum.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing you.
I will be there. So, Heart of the City family, let's make sure we go to the Colored Girls Museum. Make sure you check out AlphaCON2017.com. I'm at the end of the show, but I promise you, everyone keeps asking me, hey, man, what books do you read? I always get these inboxes. Hey, suggest a book. Tell me something. So, the book for this week, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. That's Marshall Goldsmith. There's 20 workplace habits that you need to break that are in this book. They're not just workplace habits. These are life habits that he tackles in this book. The book, again, What Got You Here Won't Get You There by Marshall Goldsmith. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. The Colored Girls Museum, check it out. AlphaCON 2017, check it out. Support both of these beautiful, beautiful African-American women. Support their initiatives and what they're doing for our community. We thank you so much for tuning in, supporting us, and loving on us. You know what I say every week. As always, feel beautiful, look beautiful, and act beautiful. Why? Because you are beautiful. We'll see you next week.